Um, Being over in the Middle East, that particular experience, that is where I learned that freedom is not free. I recall a situation in which I went to the grocery store and I was approached by a woman, and she asked me, she said, "You are American?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." And she said, she asked me a question. She said, "How does it feel to be free?" And it was at that moment, like I said, that I realized that freedom is not free. Freedom is not free, and it serving our country is not something to be taken lightly.
I am where I am today because the Army takes care of its own. I was allowed to rise based on performance. The Army took in a young black kid from ROTC in the South Bronx and brought him to this point. The Army allowed me to climb on the shoulders of the Buffalo Soldiers and other African Americans who had blazed the trail for 300 years of American history. And I hope the day will come soon when all parts of our society do for young minorities what the Army and the other armed services have been doing for young men and women of all color over the years.
Vocational wise, I was actually learning different things. I actually was a welder, a brazier, and a plumber, and I was a firefighter. I did master a lot of these vocations, and I was actually kind of revered as one of the training experts in a lot of those fields.
Leadership and command, which kind of go hand in hand, but leadership at an early age. At the age of 20, I was my first duty station was Adak, Alaska, and I was a young junior officer, and I had a division of 45 people, who were, a lot of them were older than I was. So that was both rewarding and challenging at the same time.
My challenges were the fact that I was leaving my family. I was a parent, and I had to leave my son, and I had to leave my daughter, and I had to leave my significant other. But home, I wanted it to be safe. I wanted it to be protected. And this was actually, in short, the best way I could ensure that.
Alaska, I was stationed in Alaska. That was my first duty station. And remember now, I came into the Navy in 1991. So I figured some things were, okay as far as, there was just some things I didn't expect. So challenges, the blatant racism, the sexism, lots of sexual harassment. And so I get to my first duty station, and there was a civilian contractor there who I felt was very nice until he said, "I didn't know that they were allowing your kind in the Navy." And so I stopped and I said, "What is my kind?" He says, "Colors." And I said, "Colors? What's that?" "Negro." So I took a deep breath, which I felt would probably have been the best thing to do because I didn't want to get thrown out after having just gotten commissioned. And so I educated him and I said, "Well, I'm neither. I'm not colored and I'm not Negroid. That's not what we're called." I said, "I am an African American woman, who is serving in the Navy as a naval officer. And by the way, I'm a human being." Um, so never had that conversation again.
I was a supply troop, so we, were shipping people off to go to Germany, and then from Germany they would go over to Iraq. So basically, the challenge there was being the only female with 49 guys. I wore many hats at that time. A lot of it was confidant, a lot of it was mother, but a specific incident happened when the very first night and the first 24 hours there, and we had to go and eat. and I went to the chow hall because it was a German base. And I was told, when you walk through that door, don't be afraid, because they've never really seen an African American female in uniform before. So when I walked through, I got my food. I was like, "What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about." So when we walked through the door with our food in hand, it was as if E.F. Hutton spoke. Everyone in that chow hall stopped what they were doing, turned around, and looked at me, and I was like, "Oh my God, what is going on?" It was frightening at first. The challenge there was, once again, adaptive.
After returning to the United States, retiring with disability, I applied to hundreds of government jobs with no success. I had one of my military buddies who moved on to the federal government, became a senior HR officer, and he told me that in a particular meeting that a hiring manager posed the question that although veterans have hiring preference, it's discretionary, and that they don't feel comfortable hiring veterans not knowing what their mental state was. So I did find this discouraging, of course. Shortly thereafter, the Obama administration put forth initiatives to increase the hiring of veterans. So I was encouraged. I pushed forward, applied, was interviewed, and hired by the Office of Federal Contract Compliance. Well, I was truly amazed that after being in many countries with the military, that I immediately saw diversity in genders, race, religion, national origin, and immediately I knew the U.S. Department of Labor practices what they preach, which is equal employment opportunity.
I'm a proud veteran that served my country well. To those that would listen, I have many stories to tell. We fought for America's freedom on foreign land. Whenever the battle for democracy raged, America's finest made a stand. We fought for the future and the right to remain free, for we saw what freedom meant to those not blessed with liberty. For you and yours, we would gladly have given our life. We faced the fears and perils of battle. We braved endless turmoil and strife. Please remember us veterans and the sacrifices we made for you. Please share the blessings of freedom proudly. Wave the red, white, and blue.